Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Hex with John Arnold, Armand Kafai, and myself, Daniel Robertson. Don't forget to give us the like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a comment. Let us know what you think about the 6 topics we are discussing today. That's where we get the name The Hex from, in case you didn't notice. So we have got MLS Playoffs, we've got the Coaching Carousel, and we haven't checked in on Liga MX in a while. So we're going to do that as well. So let's get into it. Guys, we are recording this on Tuesday at about 5 p.m. Central Time. The first round of the MLS playoffs is not over yet. In fact, we have 2 more games, even though the playoffs started on Friday. So we're going to make do with what we got here. We've still got LAFC, Austin, Charlotte, NYCFC still to be played, but we do have quite a few games in the books. Armand, first off, we're going to talk biggest takeaway from the first round of games that have been played so far. What do you got?
I've been shocked at how passive the lower seeds have been in the opening games. I think the takeaway for me is just how passive they are in this. I mean, in this format, you can take risks, right? You have a second game that's guaranteed. Aggregate doesn't matter in this. Yet we saw Nashville set up super passively. We saw, I'd say Minnesota, I mean, that's kind of the way they play, but they were getting hammered by Seattle during multiple moments. We saw FC Dallas set up super passively, and it's like
Portland too.
Exactly, Portland as well. It almost was like kind of the old, like kind of the, in hockey, like riding the hot hand of the goalkeepers. It's like a lot of teams were, attempting to do that. And for Minnesota, it worked, right? Like I know we're going to talk about that later, but for Minnesota, it worked through Dane St. Clair, who I think is up for goalkeeper of the year, which he would have my vote if I had a vote. I think he had your vote, John, if I remember correctly.
He did.
So, I mean, for me, I'm just shocked at how passive these teams are because when you look, Nashville, they pressed Miami in that game, and they had success in the game before the playoff game. The playoff game, they sat back, and it's just kind of like, okay, like you're just going to allow Miami to operate.
Dallas too, like they beat Vancouver. Like if they had come into that game with confidence, maybe they would have done something a little different.
Right, exactly. It's to me, it's a little bit weird. It's like, okay, this game we'll sit past it. Maybe we'll try to steal it, and then we'll play it how we really play in game 2. I don't think that should be the philosophy, guys. I'm really surprised by it. But, I mean, this is just, I guess, another weird thing about this quirky format, John.
Well, that was my takeaway. Round 1, land of the goalkeepers. If you have a great goalkeeper, like Minnesota does with Dane St. Clair, we'll get into, like Philadelphia does with Andre Blake, you can get away with a lot. You can paper over a lot of sins or errors if you have a very good goalkeeper. Even if you don't have a great goalkeeper, and like you're saying, just like a hockey idea, he gets hot at the right time. This is
Michael Collodi for FC Dallas.
This is the time for the goalkeepers to get hot, right? Because the format means that the goalkeeper can have such an outsized impact, not just because of the penalty shootout, but also because if you do decide, our best bet is to sit back, soak up pressure. And we're going to give 3 or 4 opportunities away on a set piece. And we're going to give a shot away from open play. You got to depend on the goalkeeper to actually stop those. Some teams that you're mentioning who thought that was going to work, maybe FC Dallas and Michael Collodi, wasn't entirely the strategy, didn't get that performance, didn't have some sort of miracle. And it's not the goalkeeper's fault. Like you're saying, there's a lot of systemic things that led to that. But I think that, if anything, this format that we're all bashing, I haven't seen anyone, and it's fine if you think it's good. If I've seen a single person write a good thing about it, I would call him out here. But I haven't seen a single person be like, I love this. This is a very good format. This is a good way to decide a champion. But there's drama, and a lot of times it circles around the goalkeeper. This round 1, land of the shot stopper.
Yeah, and it sets Minnesota up really well, as we'll talk about in another segment. But for me, guys, I'm going to focus on one team. And actually, my biggest takeaway is FC Cincinnati, because, we'll talk about Miami and Vancouver in a second. There was a lot of it as you were, but all of us identified Cincinnati as like that team that is high on upset alert here. Even myself, right? Like they've outperformed their expect goals. John's saying no. He had Cincinnati the whole time, but they rode their
tape.
Well, go back. Yeah, please give us another view. Go back and watch our show last week. We can use all the views we can get. But still, watching that game yesterday, FC Cincinnati was riding their luck quite a bit against Columbus, who played pretty well. And Armand, I think I texted you this. FC Cincinnati could not afford to lose that game. This was a game that they had to get past more than most teams, and they did. And here's the huge takeaway for me as well. Kevin Denke. Because as he goes is probably as Cincy goes. Yes, Evander is the potential MVP and so important, But if we're talking about championship aspirations, Denke has to be scoring. He's as streaky of a goal scorer as we have in the league. He's scored in his last 3 games. So for Cincinnati, I don't think that could have gone any better. Now they can go to Columbus in game 2 with total freedom, knowing, hey, at worst, we're going back home where we've already beaten them. So for me, the biggest takeaway was Cincinnati feeling pretty good after round 1. 2 teams that it was as you were, exactly what we expected. Vancouver Whitecaps throttling FC Dallas 3-0, and then Miami in the first game of the playoffs on Friday night throttling Nashville 3-1. John, which one of these wins, though, is more significant?
For me, it's Vancouver. And in no small part because of kind of what we were talking about a little bit in the first segment, that FC Dallas went into that game in Vancouver knowing that they could beat the Whitecaps because they already had beat the Whitecaps on decision day. Now, that game was a strange game, and I think most of us prognosticated it to have been a weird fluke. Early red card, FC Dallas actually not at their best, but sort of was something that you hadn't seen, a bit of that change-up screwball in baseball moment.
Yeah.
But when Vancouver is playing not at full strength, but almost at full strength, and playing like they want to, it was just dominant. So I think Miami went into that game with Nashville saying, we just beat these guys. We're going to roll past them again. And they did. But Vancouver just getting that bit of confidence and getting that out of their system, especially because the other factor in this series I think is interesting, although Vancouver has played in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and had success. The long travel. It's kind of the longest road trip you can have in this round of playoffs, going from Vancouver to Dallas. Obviously, Dallas has to take the same flights, but it's a long trip, a difficult one, knowing that you have the game in hand. I think is big for Vancouver, and now I think they can set their sights on trying to end this series in just 2 games and saying they aspire to much more than just a first-round victory. For me, just proving that they can get that win, washing the taste that may have lingered from decision day out of their mouth, and now getting everyone back on the field, playing well, connecting, to me is the bigger moment.
Yeah, and for me, I'm exactly lockstep with you. For me, it's Vancouver as well, but for another reason, and that's because they're missing pieces right now. No Brian White, no Tristan Blackman, who was questionable coming into the game, didn't
Defensive
play.
Player of the Year.
MLS Defensive Player of the Year. This goes for both teams, but I would say of the teams in the playoffs that are the higher seeds, getting through this round in 2 games is probably more important for Vancouver and Miami than any other teams, because I think now with this win, Vancouver can go back to Dallas and say, we're not going to play Tristan Blackman. We've already shown we can hold them to literally nothing.
You get Laborda back, right? Like after the red card suspension, exactly. So you don't have to stick Priso in there anymore.
Exactly. And go get a result. Get your guys healthy. You've got a week off. And you're feeling great, Armand. But
one other aspect of it, I was listening to Soccer Wise, and Goss pointed this out. It's a good point. They would basically almost have a month if they if they say, "Hey, we're not going to play these guys." They're going to have a month in between games. That's enough time to get Brian White healthy. That's not enough time to get Tristan Blackman healthy.
That's a long time not to play, though. I agree with you, but that's a long time not to play. Let me. Here's a preview of our show in a month: Rust versus Rest. Which is
right. But they'll have the ability to get those guys healthy. But guys, for me, I'm going to deviate from you guys. I think it was Miami's win over Nashville that was dominant, and I think it's mainly because Vancouver did an amazing job. I mean, 0 shots, they allowed nothing. It was excellent performance. But FC Dallas, I think, is one of the worst teams that entered into the playoffs thing. And even though they were super hot entering into it, I think they're just kind of happy to be there.
You're not playing Sam Sarver and
right.
Sure.
Exactly. I think they're just very happy to be there. But Nashville is a team that, if you look at all their advanced numbers, you look at how they've been playing, is a really good and solid team. And Miami played them off the park, guys. Legitimately, again, kind of back to what we were talking about in the last segment, Miami you're going to sit back and kind of try to close these spaces. Okay, we're just going to exploit them further. And Messi was excellent. Suarez, I thought, had a really good game as well, too. The defense wasn't really pressed for that much. For me, I mean, Miami just beat Nashville on the road. Then they come out and beat Nashville at home in the first playoff game. If you're Nashville, you're sitting there we're pretty demoralized right now. How can we beat these guys? Can we beat these guys? And I think that sets up for a big game for them going into that second game. It's, I think, this Sunday. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Sunday.
Or Saturday, excuse me, this Saturday.
Who knows, my friend?
Yeah, the schedule's all over the place, guys. That's for another topic. But For me, it was Miami, but I think Vancouver's win, that was a just belt to ass game for from start to finish. It was incredible.
And that's an analytic term. Their
Yes.
BTA was at 1.4.
Yeah,
100% BTA.
BTA.
All right, so looking at the game last night on Monday night, very interesting. Minnesota probably got outplayed by Seattle, but Minnesota comes away with the win on penalties with Dane St. Clair. Stop me if you've heard this before. Heroics in a penalty shootout. Seattle is the team that I predicted to get to MLS Cup. So I'll start this one off because we're going to say, is it time for Seattle to panic? Is it time for me to panic? Guys, I'm going to say yes. Absolutely, yes. It is time for Seattle and myself to panic about our predictions. And here's the reason why. There is one team that you don't want to play where Seattle at home is going to have to put their foot on the gas. They're going to have to press the game and potentially leave spots open on the counter. Who is the number one counterattacking team that wants you to hold the possession, wants you to push forward and then hit them? Armand is nodding, so I've got Analytics Boy on my side here. This is kind of a nightmare for Seattle because they've got to either decide going into this second leg, which is actually on Monday night. We might record again before that game even happens. Maybe we'll wait till Tuesday again. We'll see. But if
that's the real drama of the playoffs.
That's the real drama of the
podcast record.
Yes, but if you're Schmetzer now, you have to decide, how do we want to manage this? Because the team we're playing is going, even with Stefan Fry, the team we're playing is going to have the advantage in a penalty kick shootout. I think it is time to panic, Armand. Am I going too far?
I think you're going a little too far. I think this sort of format is just insanely generous, right? I mean, Seattle played very well. Seattle played very, very well. And I do agree that when it comes stylistically, Minnesota's going to be licking their chops into this, saying, hell, like Seattle's going to have to push and we're going to have the opportunity to hit them on the counter.
They don't have Connie Lewis.
But
they don't have the same horses they used to have, for sure.
Exactly. And to me, Seattle always does this to where they always figure out ways to, I think, get a result in the end. I mean, again, if you're Brian Schmetzer, you're looking at this saying, we played well. We just got outclassed by an amazing keeper. I think when it comes to Dane St. Clair's performance,
even unlucky, man. I mean, look, like I think Dane St. Clair was good. He's my goalkeeper of the year pick, but there were 3 shots that hit the post in the penalty shoot. Even the penalty shoot was not bad from the Sounders. I'm not panicking at all. This is a team that's going back to one of the best home field advantage in Major League Soccer. That's going to feel very good. That's had their back against the wall in other times this season. Yeah, there was the moment where they lost to Cruz Azul in a horrendous fashion in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Yeah, they had really tough games in the Club World Cup against some of the best clubs in the world. But to me, that's what makes it this Sounders team say, we can still get past Minnesota United. I think psychologically they're still in it. Then you talk about, okay, well, the mind is here, but what about the tactics? What about what actually happens on the field? We're all agreeing that the Sounders played the better game. Yes, Minnesota is happy for you to concede the possession, but the Sounders had more of it. They had dangerous chances. To me, Dane St. Clair, from the run of play is actually maybe more dangerous than he is in the penalty shootout, although he's never lost a penalty shootout as a specialist. So maybe I'm wrong. Look, he's a good goalkeeper. And again, this is the time of the goalkeeper. But I think if there's a team I'm not concerned about, it is the Sounders, who have enough players who have been here before. Talk about Stefan Fry. This guy knows how to get out of ugly MLS playoff series where a game ends 0-0. You talk about Christian and Alex Roldan. Even Rusnek, these guys have been around and know how to get out of these series. Yeah, they're going to have to drag some of the young guys. Yeah, they miss Pedro de la Vega. But I think this is the kind of team that can get past. Panic, not even. Worry, maybe you're starting to get a little on that meter. But that's going to happen anytime you don't get the result in the very first game. It happens. It's sports. If there's a team in MLS I trust and a manager I trust to turn it around, it's the Sounders with Brian Schmetzer.
Going to the coaching carousel, guys, there are currently 6 horses on that carousel as it spins around the state fair of MLS. And of course, one of them is LAFC, which still has a coach and they're still playing. But LAFC, Atlanta, Colorado, St. Louis, Sporting Kansas City, and the New York Red Bulls. A couple of those coming open this week in Colorado and at the Red Bulls. John, we're going to talk about the potential rumors for Atlanta in the next segment. But which of these 6 jobs do you feel like is the best one right now in MLS that's open?
Oh, LAFC. I mean, if you can be the manager for Son, I think that's pretty enticing. When you talk about the resources they have, their willingness to buy the team, and the fact that you're really not trying to do a rebuild. You look at these other teams, most of the managers are out because of disappointing performances. Yeah, you could say, oh, well, the expectations will be quite high. You won't have a chance to have one season off, but who cares? If you're an ambitious manager, you don't want that. You want to be trying to push for titles, and LAFC is a team that's built for title. I'm actually going to flip it around. I wonder, Armand, what you think the worst open job is. Because I kind of have a pick, but what do you? I thought we were going to power rank 1 through 6.
I thought we were too.
Okay. Well, yeah. Give me.
All right, let's.
Well.
I'm gonna.
Who wants to go first with?
What's your first? What's your first?
Well, my first would be LAFC as well.
Sure. All right, Daniel, what's your first?
Atlanta. I think here's my problem with the LAFC job. You want to be the guy that follows the guy that follows the guy, right? Like, you don't want to be the one that follows Cherundolo. The level of expectations, if you take that job, you got to win immediately. If you're not good by summer, you're out, right? And so it's not going to be an Atlanta situation where Ronnie Dyla, for better or worse, got an entire season. If Ronnie Dyla did what he did in Atlanta, in LA, he would have been gone by the summer, right? So that's why I say, with heavy expectation, with a great job comes great expectations. So for me, Atlanta, you're playing in a 60,000 seat stadium, amazing crowd, amazing fan base. You've got Chris Henderson there running now. Not that John Thorne. I mean, I would put Chris Henderson and Armand gave me a look for a second. There's great people running LAFC as well. So, but I think for the right setup, Atlanta can be the kind of job where it's an amazing job, but you're not expected to win the championship every single year. Whereas with LAFC, there's really high expectations.
You also forgot, I think, a key resource. Arthur Blank's checkbook.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that thing is massive, right?
Yeah, but LAFC is hardly a poverty club.
Right,
They just signed the biggest South Korean superstar ever for, outside of BTS.
So I'll say just really quickly, I think LAFC 2, I would put the Red Bulls at 3. I would put St. Louis at 4, Kansas City 5, Colorado 6.
Ooh, I'll have to
what's your
debate.
last, Armand?
Mine, in order, it would be LAFC, Atlanta, SKC, Red Bulls, St. Louis, and Colorado is my last.
Yeah, our lists are sort of similar. Mine's LAFC, number 2, Sporting Kansas City, 3, Atlanta, 4, St. Louis, 5, Red Bulls. I don't want Jurgen Klopp breathing down my neck every time I do anything. And 6, Rapids. Yeah, I mean, look, you can craft it as good or bad. I just feel like with Red Bull, especially with New York, maybe some of the other clubs in their sort of expansive empire, and you could argue, you can take the Jesse Marsch elevator to success. But who's the last coach from the New York Red Bulls that you're like, yeah, he had a great time?
Well, I don't know. Let me call him and find out. Let me poll him. But to me, it's like the Red Bulls, and you also potentially have Michael Bradley as that like coach in waiting behind you. But I think that the pyramid is set up really well in New York, and you've got really good young players. You've got a roster that is not bad, probably just needs a few tweaks. Yeah, I wouldn't want to touch the Colorado job. That one seems a little crazy.
Their problem is with like their academy situation, which their GM has admittedly said is really bad. So essentially, you're walking in, you don't have that much.
Which job is this?
The Colorado job.
Right.
Their academy situation is not good, but that's why they're getting these draft picks, trying to get these young players across MLS teams, etc. And the resources there, like, sure, they're spending money, but again, like, it seems like it's kind of all over the place when it comes down to it. But I will say this, John. I think we agree that I think the SKC job is very.
There's some John Arnold bias, Kansas bias.
No, I think it's a great job.
David Lee going to Kansas City from City Football Group, again, leaving one of these sort of big multi-club structures and going to Kansas City saying, I'm going to take the lessons I learned. And of course, like you could say, Tati Castellanos is one of his biggest hits, but that came through the pipeline. But I think that this is a guy who can identify talent, who knows how to kind of help set up a winning team. And now you're in a market where, look, like it's kind of funny because I would argue that Sporting Kansas City, until the stadium opens, I think Sporting Kansas City has more pressure on it and more from the actual local fans than NYCFC. But at the same time, like, we're talking about this rebuild, and you're talking about being the guy who's after the guy who followed the guy. Like, Hermes is gone. You had this interim period, and now you get to have that opportunity at a club where, I mean, like, the expectations are that you eventually win, but you don't have to win tomorrow, kind of like you're saying with LAFC, which is absolutely true. Like I said, I'm just not afraid of the smoke like some of you.
And also, you get blank canvas in SKC. They only renewed 12 players. There's only 12 players on contracts going into
that gets you 2 years right off the bat, because
unlike St. Louis,
let you go after 1 year.
Unlike St. Louis, where you've already got your DP slot filled. Well, maybe that's a good decision, Armand. You can tell us about that another time.
So, big news from Tom Bogert saying that we could have a return of Tata Martino to take the job in Atlanta. Tata Martino was the coach for the first 2 years of Atlanta United's MLS run, winning MLS Cup in 2018 before taking the Mexico job. Armand, is this the right choice for Atlanta to bring back kind of the old head?
Well, they haven't found anyone to replace him. Like, ever since he's been gone, since you've been gone, but they haven't. They literally haven't had a chance to replace him, and now you need someone with the Atlanta United identity. We for all of us, I think we identify with the Atlanta United that won MLS Cup, that played exciting, fun football under Tata Martino.
Then why not just keep Rob Valentino?
Because he doesn't play fun football like Tata Martino does. I think with Tata Martino, you get a guy whose advanced metrics are out there. They're amazing. Yeah, of course. For Atlanta, you get a guy who's motivated because he hasn't had good stints in between, and also you get a guy that knows some of the players and knows the league. I think it's a key thing. You have to know the league, and I think we've seen that with a lot of these hirings that we've seen. Mikey Varas, right? We kind of were like, this is kind of a weird signing. Why is this going on, etc. But a key thing that they mentioned throughout their search was they want a guy that knows the league, and Tata Martino understands the league, has pull. I'm all for it, John. I don't know what you think.
I think so too. I mean, in a lot of ways, it makes too much sense, and that's why you kind of push back a little. You're like, kind of like you're saying, Dan, you're throwing it back. It's a little romantic. And I saw a couple people write, well, they just did that with Almiron and it didn't work. Okay, there's a difference between being an older player and an old manager. Tata Martino, if anything, has more wisdom from his stops at Inter Miami and Mexico, which, I think at the end we have to say it was a failure. But I think the fact that he went through that, then went to Miami, and now has all that experience and wisdom is a plus, whereas Almiron, you say, oh, he has more miles on his legs, that's a negative. So I don't understand that at all, other than, yes, it's a bit of a romantic reunion. Look, I'm not guaranteeing that it'll work. I think a lot has changed around Atlanta, and they kind of keep grasping back at that identity, and I think their fan base wants to find that again, which is great. They should expect that. They should demand that. Arthur Blank should have these high expectations. And I think Tata Martino can deliver that. You talk about what's his motivation. Why would he take this job? It's a place where he was happy, where he liked working. The stresses of kind of day to day, it seems like, made him, leave after having success. But he once again is in a situation where I think he's trying to sort of set up a great legacy and be remembered. Maybe even, like, it's funny because I don't think Tata really needs to do anything to go down as a great coach. But when has he succeeded without Messi? Maybe he's trying to get out of the very small shadow of Lionel Messi and being the coach that only made it work with him. I think that could be, I think you can argue, oh, Paraguay, whatever. But, it makes sense to me. If Martino wants to do it, I think he's a good candidate. Yeah, Gio Savarese is one of the other candidates who they're also interviewing. I'd be intrigued to see him get back in the league too. But if you can get Tata, if you can convince him to come back, I think now's the time. And look, if it flames out in 2 years, that's what happened to your last tires, right? So,
well, and I think there's a couple things here also. Garth Lagerwey, who has kind of taken it. Atlanta needs normalcy right now. They don't really need a new, kind of voice coming in. I don't know what Gio Savarese's relationship was like with Chris Henderson. Obviously, they're old head MLS guys. They may be great friends or they may be enemies. I don't know, right? I like both of them, and obviously both of them have skins on the wall. But Chris Henderson gets along with Tata Martino. They had a good run in Miami, and so if you're Atlanta right now, you kind of wish it is kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit on are we set up long term? But at the same time, this is kind of the time for Atlanta where you can kick the can down the road because
even look at Tata's. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to step on your point, but like you look at like Tata's Inter Miami philosophy, I think was more youth based than even they are right now, right? Like I don't.
And it set them up well. It set up Miami well.
Yes. And I think that's the thing is that Tata Martino is not the kind of manager who's going to say, I only want to work with guys I know and bring in a bunch of 30-somethings. He intimately knows the Argentine like youth system and setup. He brings guys from Paraguay. Like, not all are going to hit and not all are going to work. But I think that that's something that probably gets undervalued is that this is not a manager who is kind of afraid to take chances and find some diamonds in the rough. That would really benefit Atlanta right now if they can go scout South America again, like they did the first time around, find those gems and turn them into, the Almirons, the Joseph Martinez's, the Thiago Almadas.
I mean, you got to bring Joseph
Martinez,
back,
sorry.
right?
You talk about a romantic return, man.
Like, come on.
Come on.
I mean, you just give him like 50K GAM and call it a day.
To be his assistant coach? Like, are we talking about to be his assistant coach?
He can play one more year. He was pretty decent.
That's like Carlos Ruiz coming back to Dallas in 2016 when he
scored the one goal that mattered.
Guys, we haven't head south of the border in a few weeks to talk Liga MX, and we are, John, with the international break and everything, you kind of take an eye away from it, but obviously you're creating a lot more Liga MX content again, and we are heading towards the business end of the season. 2 match days left before the Liguilla. And if you want to lock in at any time, boy, the Clásico in Monterrey this weekend, where you have 2 of the top 5 teams. And when you look at the table, the top 5 is separated by 3 points. They're all big teams. It's a really good time to get involved right now.
Yeah, because the race for the top 4 is actually important. If you get in the top 4, you host your first playoff game. You don't have to screw around with a wild card. That Clásico Regio is really going to be good because both teams are very good this year. And if you're like, I'm a fan of any flavor of fan can find something. If you just love pageantry and rivalry, I think this is the best rivalry in Mexico, to be honest, at least right now. You want I'm a European soccer fan. I want guys I recognize. Well, Sergio Ramos is on one team, Andre Pierre-Gignac, and Angel Correa on the other team. So, I mean, the Clásico Regio is going to be, spoiler, my number 1 match to watch when I do my 3 games to watch on Thursday. Yeah. There's a lot to watch. Toluca's still in first place, although Alexis Vega just got hurt.
Did he?
Yeah. We'll see how long he's out. Definitely for the end of the season, maybe to the end of the year. Hope not. But they've still got some ballers, so they're still in the hunt. Cruz Azul is playing extremely well. Very good defense. Pretty productive offense. There's a lot going on. America there's always a soap opera around America. Alejandro Zenejas has missed some games with injury. Henry Martin has missed games with injury. Brian Rodriguez, actually a former LAFC player, just extended with America because he's been doing so well in their absence. But they've been sort of on a bit of a roller coaster. They just drew with Mazatlan, so it is a good time to get plugged in. Chivas are back.
Yeah,
like everything's happening. Everything's happening.
What?
I was gonna say, I know you're gonna ask about something on the field related, Daniel. But one thing that I think has kind of made it hard to follow Liga MX is this deal that happened with 2DN and YouTube TV.
That didn't happen, huh?
Yeah, that didn't happen, and we've been kind of, I guess, relegated is the wrong word, but forced to watch through the CBS's deal that come through. Like that's the only way, and that's I know, Daniel, you're going to talk about on the field, etc. But
you can also watch on VIX.
It's a great
streaming service. It's like $5.
For me, it's been
they need to figure it out. No, they need to figure it out.
It's been really difficult to keep up with Liga MX because usually I just watch a game, catch it on YouTube TV, etc. It's been super difficult to find matches now. And I guess, John, if I'm trying to catch up and keep up with the league, what's the best way to go about it if I'm someone that's been impacted by that?
Probably the Getting CONCACAF newsletter. If you go premium for $5 a month, then there's a Monday recap that gives you all the best highlights.
Don't watch the games. Just read the recap.
The VIX streaming service still works, and it's $5 a month. It's not great. It's not user friendly, to be honest. But you get some soap operas on there, and you get the soccer. So I would say that the CBS stuff also works. And if you can use the internet, there's a couple interesting sites out there that you can find as well. In addition to the newsletter.
And John, last question real quick before we get out of here. If we're looking at in Liga MX, kind of a newcomer of the year, I was going to point out Angel Correa. He's been really, really good for Tigres. Where would you kind of rank? Because there's been a lot of big names, like you already mentioned, Ramos, Correa, etc. Where are you kind of looking if there was kind of like I don't know if they give out this award, but kind of like a newcomer that's really done well this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be Correa for what he's done kind of since he arrived. I'd say like a disappointing moment. Well, there's been both the French guys, Martial going to Rayados and Alan Saint-Maximin. He started so bright, but then he's had some fitness, like he's not playing full 90s right now, and he hasn't been able to make the impact that he did at first for America. So, I mean, I think that's a big one. And then not like a newcomer, but like a player who I guess like almost like a rookie of the year, although he's played before, so that doesn't really work. Just watch Hormiga Gonzalez from Chivas. He's kind of putting his way into the national team picture. He had a hat trick in the Clásico Tapatío. He doesn't totally remind me of Chicharito, but obviously the comparisons are there because he's a bit of a poacher and he plays for Chivas and Chicharito's on the bench. He scored 2 goals with a header in the Tapatío and then one on sort of like a diving slide, like not lucky, like definitely skill, but like one of those guys who just he's not bashing in goals from 20 yards out, free kicks, whatever, but like he is going to find a way to score because he has his nose for a goal, and that's what Chivas had been missing. So I think that they're going to be kind of a surprise team this year with Hormiga, and obviously Chivas only fields Mexican players, so he's really making a push to kind of get. I think if I'm Javier Aguirre, I don't think he's going to make my World Cup list, but I'm calling him in November to see if he can prove me wrong.
Yeah, and it is exciting too when you look at kind of like the Liga MX leading like goal scorers, and it's all 92s, 93s, and then you see this 2003, and you're like, okay, looking at because that's something that Liga
Mexican.
MX yeah,
and
it's
like
Mexican.
Typically, it's like an Argentine guy, Uruguayan guy, French guy, and then.
Or a naturalized Argentine with the Mexican flag or something like that. But yeah, so that's another great reason to watch. Chivas very likely to make the Liguilla, and should be really exciting. So lock into that. Lock into the MLS playoffs. Thanks for locking in to the Hex, and we will catch you next week.